Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. She came home laughing. Not just a chuckle. I mean loud, careless laughter that echoed through the hallway like I was the punchline. She dropped her heels by the door, missed the mat, and just left them there like someone who didn't expect to be judged. I didn't say anything. I was sitting in the dark at the dining table, phone face down, pretending not to care while every second ticked like a hammer behind my ribs. She flipped on the hallway light and blinked at me. "You scared me," she said, smiling like I was a coat rack that had spoken. I didn't smile back. I didn't even blink. "You weren't answering your phone," she said next, slower this time, probably realizing the air in the room felt different, stiffer, colder. I just stared at her. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said before I asked a single question, which of course told me everything. She started to move past me like nothing was wrong, like it was just another night. But before she could reach the stairs, I slid a small envelope across the table. It was already open. Inside was a photo, blurry, but clear enough. Her, leaning in too close to a man I'd never seen before, his hand on the small of her back. Her face tilted up like she belonged there. She looked at it, then at me, and then, for the first time in our 12-year marriage, she said absolutely nothing. No lies, no denial, not even a whisper. She just stood there, still dressed like a stranger, and watched as the man she left behind all evening did something she never expected. I stood up, calm, quiet, my voice barely above a whisper. "You went to that party knowing I hated the idea. I didn't say a word. I gave you space. And this is what you filled it with." Still, she said nothing. But her silence? It was louder than any scream. She sat down slowly, like her legs finally remembered they belonged to someone who had just been caught. I watched her fingers tremble as she pushed the photo slightly away from her, like distance could blur what was already burned into my memory. I wasn't expecting a full confession. I wasn't even expecting honesty. But I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd try. Instead, she glanced at me like I was a nosy neighbor who'd read a private note through her window. "It's not what you think," she finally said. Her voice was flat. No urgency, no panic, just a mechanical, empty. I leaned back in the chair, arms crossed, and asked, "Then what is it, Lorna?" She flinched a little. I hadn't said her name in hours, maybe days. Sounded strange on my tongue. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. "Julian was just being friendly. It was noisy. That's how people talk in clubs." Clubs? She said it like she was 22 again. Like she hadn't just turned 39 2 weeks ago. Like she hadn't promised me she'd be home early, and instead rolled in wearing the same makeup and someone else's scent. I didn't respond. I just stared at her while she built this little fantasy she could live in. And the more she talked, the more I realized. She didn't feel bad. She didn't feel anything. My phone buzzed again on the table. I hadn't turned off the notifications since I saw the first message. A new one lit up. "Hope he bought the work party story. You're incredible." She saw it too. Her hand darted out to grab the phone, but I was faster. "He?" I asked, my voice quiet but cracking. Her face paled. "Give me the phone, Clyde." "Who is he?" I pressed. "Is he someone from work? Someone new? Or has this been going on for longer than just one night?" Lorna stood up, suddenly defensive, the calm mask slipping off. "You don't get to interrogate me like this. Not when you've been checked out for years." And there it was, the script flip, the deflection. I felt it in my chest like a punch. All the nights I'd stayed up waiting. All the times I'd asked her to just talk to me. All the dinners where I sat across from a woman scrolling through her phone instead of seeing her husband. But I never cheated. I never stepped out. I just stayed, quiet, invisible, tired. I looked her straight in the eye. "So this is my fault?" She didn't answer. And that silence told me everything I needed to know. The kitchen felt smaller after that, like her words had sucked the oxygen out of the air. She walked away after dropping that line. "You've been checked out for years," and left me standing there with her lies and the morning light. I heard her upstairs, moving around our bedroom like she still had the right to occupy it. Closet doors opened. Drawers closed. The rhythm of someone preparing an excuse they could pack into a bag. Meanwhile, I stood at the sink, running the water just to drown out my thoughts. I should have yelled. I should have demanded answers, threatened lawyers, said something to make her feel the weight of what she did. But I didn't. I poured myself a glass of water with shaking hands and stared at the spot where she left her heels. One of them was tilted sideways, like even the shoe was trying to escape the scene. I looked around our kitchen, the faded photos on the fridge, the anniversary magnet from Colorado, the calendar still stuck on last month, and I felt like a guest in a house I paid for. I went upstairs. She had the suitcase open on the bed. My bed. She didn't look surprised to see me standing in the doorway. In fact, she looked relieved. "Clyde, I think we need space," she said, folding a blouse too neatly. "This isn't working. You know it's not." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because the words were so familiar. I'd read them in online forums, heard them in shows. That sentence, "this isn't working," always came after someone got caught doing something they swore they'd never do. She wasn't sorry. She was just fast-forwarding to the part where she got to leave clean. "You want space?" I asked. "Where are you going? Julian's? Or is there someone else whose name you won't say?" She didn't answer. She zipped the bag. I took a step closer. "You told me you'd be back by midnight. You said you'd call." I waited, Lorna. "I sat in this house and watched the hours fall off the clock while you danced in someone else's cologne." She turned sharply. "And what would you have done if I had called? Given me the silent treatment like always? Judged me with your sad little eyes?" That hit harder than anything else. Because she wasn't wrong. I had grown quiet, small. But not because I stopped caring. I just stopped believing I mattered. She walked past me with her suitcase, her perfume trailing behind like a ghost. She didn't even look back. Not until I said one last thing. "I know about the hotel." She froze. And for the first time since all this started, her mask cracked. She didn't move at first. Just stood there halfway down the stairs with one hand still gripping the handle of her suitcase like she was holding on to her version of the truth. Her spine stiffened, and I could tell she was scrambling for a way to spin it, to make it sound like I was the paranoid one. But I saw it. That flicker in her eyes, recognition, followed by panic. And in that exact moment, I knew I'd hit the nerve she didn't think I'd find. I stayed where I was, halfway up the stairs, arms folded, voice low. "Room 416. You checked in at 11:32 p.m. Checked out at 5:54 a.m. That's not a work party. That's a transaction." She turned slowly, her face drained of all its usual defiance. "You went through my things?" "No," I said. "I checked the bank statement. You used our joint card. You were too distracted to hide it." Her mouth opened, then closed. For once, she didn't have a monologue ready. The woman who always had a comeback suddenly stood there in silence, cornered not by fury, but by facts. I watched her breathing change, the short, shallow kind that comes when you're losing control of a lie you thought would hold. "I didn't do what you think I did," she finally said, gripping the railing. "I couldn't drive home. I was tired. I needed to sleep alone." "In a king bed?" She flinched. "That same night someone texted you. Still smell you on my skin. Was that about the room too?" Her jaw tensed, and she looked away like the wallpaper had something more interesting to say. That was always her move. Look anywhere but at me. And still, a part of me hoped she'd say something, anything that made sense. Some explanation that wouldn't make me feel like an idiot for loving her this long. But there wasn't one. Just the sound of her breathing and the quiet war inside her head about whether to fight or fold. "Clyde," she said softly, "you don't understand how lonely I've been." I let out a dry, exhausted laugh. "You've been lonely? You? You're the one who disappears into your phone at dinner. You're the one who rolls over and turns your back every night. I've been standing right here for years, Lorna. You just stopped seeing me." She sat down on the step, still clutching the suitcase like it could save her. "I didn't mean for this to happen." I shook my head. "No one ever does. That's how it always starts. And then, for the first time, she looked like she was going to cry. But I didn't reach out. I didn't offer comfort. I just stood there, realizing that this hollow, broken version of us might be the most honest we'd ever been. For the next few minutes, neither of us said a word. She stayed seated on the stairs, quietly falling apart while trying to keep her posture intact. And I stood like a statue in the hallway, arms at my sides, heart beating out a rhythm I no longer trusted. There was something deeply wrong in the air between us, not just because of what she did, but because of how natural it seemed for her to do it. Was it him? I finally asked. I didn't say the name. I didn't need to. She wiped under one eye like that would fix the mess she'd made. I didn't plan it, Clyde. It just happened. God, those words. That same phrase cheaters have probably been saying since the first lie ever told. It just happened. Like it was a car accident. Like she slipped and fell into someone else's arms by mistake. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My throat felt too tight, too choked with everything I had swallowed for years to keep the peace. I waited for you, I said slowly. I waited and I waited. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I told myself you deserve trust. And while I was sitting there on the couch wondering if something happened to you, you were out proving exactly why I shouldn't have. I know I hurt you, she whispered, voice shaking now. I knelt down to her eye level, and for the first time in a long time, I looked at her without the filter of memories or hope or the stupid idea that love automatically means forgiveness. No, Lorna, you didn't hurt me. You took a match and burned down everything I built for you. She started crying, really crying now, the kind that makes your shoulders jerk and your nose run. But I didn't reach for her. I didn't move. I just watched silently, and somehow that felt worse than any argument. I knew the exact moment she realized I wasn't going to fight to fix it, that maybe I was the one she'd finally pushed too far. She stood up and walked toward the door again. I'll go stay at Erica's for a few days, she muttered. We can talk when we're calmer. I didn't stop her. I didn't ask who Erica was. I just nodded, still frozen in place. But just before she opened the door, I said one thing. Does he know about me? She stopped, hand on the knob, her back to me. That pause was the answer. And then she was gone. The door clicked shut like a closing scene in a movie I didn't agree to be in. I stood there for what felt like an hour, surrounded by framed photos of fake smiles and trips that meant more to me than they ever did to her. I looked at one from our 10th anniversary. We were holding hands. She was smiling. Now I wondered if she'd been thinking about someone else even then. I picked up the photo, stared at it, and quietly placed it face down on the table. That night I didn't sleep, but I also didn't cry. I was too numb for that. I don't know what pulled me back to her laptop the next morning. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way my own thoughts kept echoing louder than the fridge hum and the ticking wall clock. Or maybe I just needed to know how far she'd actually gone. I wasn't looking for pain. I had plenty of that already. I was looking for truth. Cold, ugly, unfiltered truth. And when I opened her MacBook and typed in the password, my birthday, by the way, which felt like a sick joke, it let me in like it had missed me. Everything was still open. Messages, photos, calendar invites. Even her draft folder was full of half-written excuses she clearly never sent. My eyes darted through threads of conversations between her and R. No last name, just a single letter like some sleazy spy novel character. But there he was, replying with late-night messages like, I dreamt of your perfume on my pillow again, and worse, things I won't repeat. Things that shattered whatever part of me still clung to the idea that this was just a one-time mistake. I clicked on a voice memo she'd sent him 3 days ago. Her voice filled the room. Sweet, playful, intimate. He's still clueless. He won't ask questions. He never does. It's like he's scared to even see me. I paused it right there. That one sentence dug deeper than any photo could. Because she was right. I had stopped asking. I had stopped seeing her. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to compete with someone who made her laugh the way I used to. I shut the laptop, gently, like I couldn't even bring myself to be mad at the machine. I sat down, rubbed my hands over my face, and tried to remember when it all started falling apart. Couldn't. Not exactly. Was it the promotion she got last year that made her feel like she outgrew me? Was it when I started coming home late from my second job to pay off her car? Or was it when I stopped being the man she could brag about? I walked around the house in a daze, every object suddenly loaded with new meaning. The vase by the window. She bought it with him on a trip she claimed was just training. The blouse hanging by the laundry basket. He once complimented her in it. Her perfume bottle, still half empty from the night of the party. I felt like I was living in a museum of betrayal. And just when I thought the day couldn't get more surreal, I heard the doorbell. A delivery man stood there holding a bouquet. "For Lorna," he said. "From R." Of course. I took the flowers, shut the door, and just stared at them. Beautiful, vibrant, fresh. Exactly what I hadn't been to her in years. I dropped them in the trash without a word. I didn't leave the house all day. Couldn't. The air inside felt heavy, like everything in it had absorbed her lies. I kept pacing between rooms, not knowing what I was looking for. Maybe closure, maybe proof that this was all some horrible misunderstanding. Maybe just a reason to stay angry instead of collapsing under it. Every time I passed the front door, I expected it to open. I kept it unlocked, even though I didn't want her to come back. I guess part of me still needed to see if she would. But she didn't. By nightfall, I had circled the house like a ghost. Laundry untouched, food uneaten, phone on Do Not Disturb. I must have listened to that voice message 5 more times. He's still clueless. The way she said it, like I was a joke. Like I was something soft she could mock in private while smiling at me in public. That broke something deeper than rage ever could. I never imagined being cheated on would make me question if I ever really knew her, or worse, if I ever mattered. At 11:04 p.m. her name popped up on my screen. No call, just a text. "Can we talk tomorrow? I don't want to fight." Fight? I hadn't even raised my voice. Not once. All I did was finally look her in the eye and stop pretending. I stared at her message, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I typed "sure," then deleted it. I typed "no," then deleted that too. In the end, I just powered the phone off and left it face down. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened the hallway closet and pulled out the old box from when we first moved in. Inside were the little things couples forget over time. Movie ticket stubs, dumb notes, the fortune cookie paper that said, "Your patience will be rewarded." It hit me harder than I expected. Back then, I believed that meant I'd have a strong marriage, family, partner who respected me. But now, I realized patience had turned me into something else, into a placeholder. I took everything from that box and laid it on the kitchen table. Every laugh we ever had, every memory I fought to protect. It all looked like evidence now. Not of love, but of denial. Of how far someone could go to preserve a version of reality that wasn't even alive anymore. Then I saw it. A key. Small, silver, taped under one of the old anniversary cards. I didn't remember putting it there, and I knew it wasn't mine. I held the small silver key in my hand for a long time before I even moved. It didn't belong to any room in our house. I checked. Bedroom drawers, the attic lock, even her old keepsake box. Nothing. But something told me it wasn't meant for me to find. That key wasn't just to a place. It was to something else. Another part of her life. One she never meant to bring home. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't text. I didn't follow up. That night, I went to sleep with the key resting on the nightstand and woke up with something inside me finally settled. The storm hadn't passed, but I was no longer standing in the middle of it waiting to be struck again. The next morning, I packed a bag. Not out of spite, not in rage, but because I needed space to breathe without walking through memories that hurt. I left the house before sunrise. No note, no dramatic farewell. I took the dog, my wallet, and a folder of resumes I hadn't touched in years. I drove 4 hours to a quiet town where no one knew me, rented a small room in a cabin Airbnb. That first night, I sat on the porch and watched the sun dip behind the trees, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like crying. She texted once more later that week. Where are you? I just replied, somewhere I can finally hear myself think. There were no more follow-ups. I've been gone for 5 months now. Found a small job working at a local hardware store. Nothing fancy, but it's enough to pay rent and feel useful again. I started drawing again too. Something I gave up years ago when life got too loud. I've met a few people, even had dinner with someone who made me laugh without needing to impress her. The house? I signed it over to her. Let her keep it. Let her keep the mirror she used to check her makeup before walking out on me. I didn't need it anymore. That silver key? I mailed it to her. No note. No return address. Just the key. I hope she figured out what it unlocked. And I hope she realizes not everything broken can be blamed on someone else. But me? I'm okay now. Not healed. Not perfect. But okay. And sometimes, okay is a miracle in itself. That's the end of my story. Now it's your turn. What moment from this story stood out to you most? Was it the text, the hotel, the key, or something quieter? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget, you're watching Reddit Confessions, where every story starts with a secret and ends with a choice.